Well, Rory, good to see you.
Good to see you
I,
too, man. Welcome to Los Angeles.
yeah, I'm here in LA with you, and we're here talking about something that I think is super relevant and interesting for the music school industry. There are some schools that we have found just tend to grow super fast, and it's like they got the formula figured out where
Yes.
students are just enrolling and they're growing, whereas other schools seem to struggle with this. And I think it's interesting to think about some of the key reasons why,
Yes.
because you've got, I've talked to a lot, you've talked to a lot. They're doing all the things. They may, a lot of times they'll chalk it up. Oh, I'm just in the wrong area, right? Or maybe, this particular area doesn't grow as fast. But I think I think there's another reason for it. And we were talking about this recently off camera, and you had some really, really good ideas for how to break this down. And so I think this will make for a really interesting episode, and want to open this conversation up with you.
Yeah. Super excited to talk about it. I think before we even get into the part that you and I talked about, let's talk about the other part first, right? Let's talk about the area you're in, the demographics, the what state are you in, what city are you in. I mean, there's only so much you control, right? I think as you scale a business, you can get a little bit more specific about it. So, for instance, a client of ours right here in Los Angeles, they started in the Pasadena area. I don't think they put much thought into it at first, and they had a really, really great system to build that business. But then after that first one, they started looking at information like what is the median income for this area. So it's definitely a lever that I think music schools can look at, but it doesn't mean that where you are today cannot be absolutely be a successful business, right? Now, if you are in an area where none of the businesses are doing good, there's no successful restaurant, there's no successful taco place, there's no
Right.
success. We can't help you then. I don't think maybe you did pick the wrong place. I don't want to remove that from the equation. I think it is important. But
But it's probably less of an issue than
100
maybe people are thinking.
you already know if you truly already know if you're in the wrong area,
Right.
and I think for virtually every music school that me and my team talk to, and we've talked to at this point thousands of music schools,
Yeah.
it's almost never the case. And it's also about how can you make the best of whatever situation you're already in, right? So if there is a scale of non-ideal to ideal, maybe you're not all the way at the top of ideal, but focus on the things you can control, right? It's not like you can pick up your business, the whole brick and mortar, and move it to a perfect locale
Right.
overnight. So it's not to say it's not important, but focus on the things that are easy to control directly within your reach. And I think that starts with identifying like, well, what do I focus on? Um, and I'd love to hear from your end too. Like, what are the most common things that you hear schools focusing on that maybe is not necessarily the most important thing to focus? Where do people get hung up?
Yeah. Well, and I think that, I mean, honestly, when you really think about, because we're talking about marketing
Yeah.
essentially, and marketing's such a broad term that, you can break it down in a lot of different categories. Like, I think about my story when I first started my music school. I didn't know anything about marketing. All I had was a lot of energy and drive, and I knew I had to get the word out somehow. And so the way I did it was I just put up yard signs. I just drove around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, everyone's going to see this. So let's start here. And it worked until it didn't. Right. And that was one of my first lessons actually in marketing was that there is no such thing as a silver bullet.
No,
Right.
not at all.
You can have something that will work really well until it doesn't. And that's why multi-channel marketing is so important. But like, um, yeah, I think that a lot of school owners, I think a lot of times they get hung up on this idea that there is a silver bullet or that there is this one thing that is going to, push them over the edge. Um, but what's interesting and what we were talking about earlier is that I think marketing is more than just, you know, raising the banner and saying, "Hey, we're open, come sign up for lessons." There's there's like a whole process of nurturing a
100%.
customer, a prospect, getting them used to your brand. Brand awareness is actually a thing. Like that there is a
Absolutely.
lot of importance to that. It's interesting. My wife and I, we were just at Costco the other day. for those of you that are Costco shoppers, because I know that's not for everybody because it's a whole different type.
Is it worth? That's another question. Is it worth it?
Well, it's kind of a thing. Like,
You might
you go
convert me. Maybe by the end of this, you'll convert me.
yeah, every time you go, there's something new there. So it's all based on impulse buying because it's like you don't know when they're gonna pull it from the shelves. But anyway, we were looking for I can't remember what it was. It was like toilet paper or something. And we were looking on the shelf and they didn't have the brand she wanted. They literally had the brand, like they had the exact same thing, but it was an off brand. And I was like, honey, why don't we just get this? She's like, no, that's not the brand. I don't like that brand. I don't know if they're any good. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. Like, and it was a fairly reputable brand,
Yeah.
right? And the power of brand, that's a real thing, and like when we think about it in in our sphere in the music school industry, people like moms especially, they are very brand driven. And the more you can strengthen that and build that trust, uh there's something there. There's like a lot of power there. And so like for us, as we got bigger, that was one of the things that I noticed is, you know, people actually took pride in the fact that they were with our school as opposed to the other school down the street.
Of course.
There because that brand was so strong. It became so powerful and so strong. So but I want you to talk a little bit about this idea of this customer journey. Like, how do you build a brand from your perspective? Like, what are some of those key elements, like building blocks to put into place to where that customer now says, I'm proud to be at this school?
Yeah, and I think this is where most music school owners and I can see how they don't really think about this.
Right.
They're not sitting down and thinking about marketing and sales and conversion rates and funnels, and they know these things exist, but unless it's something that you sit down and you're kind of forced to focus on or pay attention to, why would you know it exists? It's very much like music theory, which we joked about
Yeah.
before this. Like, you wouldn't know Lydian dominant exists. You're not going to just stumble into that. You kind of have to learn some of the science behind why do scales work together, why do chords work together, to at least get started to know where you are on your instrument. And I would say that this kind of like marketing or go-to-market mechanics, it applies to a business like a music school. It applies to a podcast studio like this. It applies to a company like Opus. I mean, I've seen this at every level. This system and this framework kind of always applies. And I think it's particularly true of service-based businesses. So I like to start all the way at the beginning, right? And this is where I'd like to start the conversation is awareness. It's the very, very first thing, right? So I've seen schools that'll say things like, we have the best teachers, we have the best technology, we have a beautifully renovated studio, and all of my teachers went to Juilliard and MI and Berkeley and so forth. And the analogy I give is like, it's like having a really beautiful billboard in the middle of the woods. Like, it doesn't do you any good if they don't get to that part of the stage where they get to experience your business in the first place. And I think this is where a lot of business owners get off on the wrong foot, because they have something they should be proud of, but they don't think about all the steps it takes for a customer to realize the value that they've built in this particular area of their business. So the very first one is awareness. How do you find out about a business in 2025? I think there's a lot of different ways. I think the traditional channels, it's word of mouth, will always persist. The moms and the dads
Right.
talk, right? There's a barbecue, they have kids on the same sports team, whatever it is, they talk, right? That's not a lever that you can really action upon greatly. You could do it passively through giving an awesome experience, but you can't step out into your office tomorrow and say, I'm going to action upon my word of mouth. That grows over time with your reputation. I think the other one that we'll see is pop-ups at local events, flea markets. I think those are awesome. I think those are all very, very good. And then the other one I've seen is people will sponsor like open mic nights. I've seen those with questionable efficacy. The one that I really like to focus on is the one that you can go and you can change starting today, and it's your digital footprint. So I would argue that word of mouth in 2025 is Google reviews, like 100%. My fiance and I went and got dinner last night. You know how we decided we were going to go? tacos near me. I looked at all the places, and that's how I became aware of the business that got my money last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where a lot of people get lost. They know reviews are important. I don't think they realize exactly how important they are. So there's the practical way in which they're important, which is the taco example I just gave. But there's also an SEO reason, right? So right around when COVID happened, Google had this really big problem, which was people were showing up to businesses and they weren't open. But the way that Google had worked previously was on-page SEO, right? So you'd hire a guy that was an expert in exactly how to lay out your bio and your teacher page and so forth in the perfect wording, and they would pepper in 4 music lessons in blank locale, and that used to be the secret sauce for SEO. When COVID happened, it dropped an atom bomb on that because that was the SEO that informed Google. So it worked really well until businesses were randomly closing during COVID. So what Google did is they shifted their strategy to say, well, wait a minute. What is another signal that a business is relevant, recent, and popular? That's not based on page SEO, because on-page SEO isn't going to tell you if they closed during COVID. So they shifted to reviews as a big part of their algorithm, right?
Mm.
Because it will tell you, do they give music lessons? You'll see it right in the reviews. My son Timmy takes guitar lessons with David and absolutely loves it. It's the best school in insert town. It shows recency. They just had a review yesterday. They're probably open. And then lastly, it shows volume or throughput or popularity, right? This is so crucial into informing Google what to show when someone searches guitar lessons near me, piano lessons near me, and so forth. So I am super bullish on Google reviews.
This is interesting, like because I think reviews have always been a really really important part of the marketing process, right? But what you're saying now is that since COVID, it has now become a much stronger lever, not just with SEO. I mean, I think we can all agree that everyone looks at reviews. Like Amazon taught us that,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The 5-star reviews, so anytime you're looking at a business, you're looking at the Google Maps and it shows you the top 3, that whole thing. Um, but now there's even a stronger argument for uh, really pushing for reviews because it's benefiting your SEO, which um, there's a huge benefit there. So then I guess the next logical question is, how are these schools getting so many reviews? Like I see some schools, they've got hundreds of reviews
Yes.
and maybe they've only been in business for 10 years, whereas you've got others that have been in business for 20 plus years and they've got like 7 reviews. So there's obviously a mechanism here where people are generating, or they've put a system in place to
Yes.
generate more reviews. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I've done consultations with many, many music schools outside of Opus, like just to talk about their business, what's working, what's not, just because I've seen a lot. Um, and I've had conversations around reviews a lot. And here's what I'll see, because I'll check after. I'll be like, I wonder if what they're implementing. I'll see a pop in reviews for a week or two, and then I'll check in with this friend of mine that owns a music school, and I'll say, hey man, what happened? I felt like you had some really good momentum, and then I see it kind of go off again. Like, oh well, the toilet broke, and then we had to order a new PA system, and then we were renewing, and life happens, right? And I think, and I used to own a music school. I know exactly what this like. You go into it with the best intentions that you're going to be hyper disciplined across 500 points that you need to be disciplined across to be a great business owner, and you are going to win a losing battle with yourself to try to be disciplined and perfect across the board on all the things that you need to be great at as a business owner, rather than denying your nature and your shortcomings of the things you may not stay on top of manually. Systematize it. Anything in your business that you look at and you go, with honest conversation with yourself, take a look at the man or the woman in the mirror and go, am I really going to stay on top of this and be honest with yourself? Am I going to keep up the discipline to ask for a review every day at the front desk for the next 5 years? If you can't honestly answer yourself yes, you might need a system for it, right?
Mhm.
And I find reviews are one of the areas where I'll have a consultation with somebody. They get super hyped, and then 2 weeks, that hype dwindles and life happens and the business continues to move, and they slowly but surely deprioritize it. I think it's also because it's somewhat abstract, its connection to your top line revenue. So the further it is away from an immediate need or an immediate
Right.
fix, the quicker people tend to deprioritize things, right? You end up being a firefighter instead of a business owner because you're like, what is demanding my immediate attention? And then things like reviews fall to the wayside. So systems, any kind of system. Granted, I'm partial. Like I'll be the first to say I work for a company that will help people do this, right?
Right.
But I would even say, you don't have to use our system. Use any system, please,
Right.
because it's so crucial to your business. So there are tons of tools out there, ours included, that will allow you to ask for reviews en masse, right? So you can ask a ton of people for reviews at once. The benefit to using our system, if you are a customer of ours, is that it's fully integrated already. The review tool is built right into everything else. And what it will allow you to do is ask for not a review first, but a sentiment question. So the first question that's actually asked in our particular tool is, how do you feel about your lessons at blank school of music, right? It's a very simple response. I love it, I'm lukewarm, or I'm upset about something. If they say anything other than I love it, they are not sent to Google. We do not want those reviews going to Google, right? We want them going directly to the business owner so that you can mitigate whatever's going on that's leading this person to not be fully happy. And then, of course, if they say they love it, immediately off to your Google review page to leave a review. But we talked about silver bullets earlier. That's not the only thing to do. That is a piece of software that will absolutely help you. But it's like any other tool, or it's like having a treadmill. Like you got to get on the thing, you got to use it regularly. So I think you use a tool such as ours to ask for those reviews in a digital way. But I also think you print out a QR code right on your front desk, on your front door, and you get your front desk person to ask people to leave reviews consistently, especially at benchmark moments, at 3 months of lessons, 6 months of lessons, 12 months of lessons, recitals, things like that. And I also think you incentivize your teachers to do it. I
Mhm.
think you say to your teachers, like, hey, for every review you get that mentions you, like, I'll give you $20 or whatever it is, however you want to incentivize that. It is a multifaceted approach to make sure that you're always generating positive reviews for your business.
So it's almost like it's multiple systems. It's
Absolutely.
interesting, Sam. I remember this is something I learned from him. He has a teacher appreciation week where it's like a competition. The teacher whoever gets the most reviews gets a bonus, but everybody, like you said, everyone gets named in a review, gets a little spiff. That absolutely works.
Yes.
I did it. I remember the first time I did it, kind of thinking, I wonder if this is actually going to work. This is another gimmicky thing. I got like over 100 reviews in a week.
Yeah.
It was incredible. And so, to your point, even if you don't have that level of success, if you have some kind of system that is automatically generating you reviews so that when you're on vacation with your family or when you're, uh, like you say, putting out fires over here, you're still generating reviews because
Always.
that system is working without you being the bottleneck, to make it happen.
Exactly. Exactly. And, for anyone at home listening, there's an exercise that I'll do with people, and you can do it at home. So, first thing you do is you go into incognito mode in your browser. We'll explain why in a second, but go into incognito mode. And I want you to go to Google Maps, right? And I want you to hover geographically so that your business is the center of the map, right? And I want you to zoom out a distance that's about how far you think people would drive. For most locales, it's like 30 minutes at a max. Some places you'll see further distances. And then I want you to type in your most popular instrument and your least popular instrument. So I want you to type in piano lessons. And I want you to take a look at who's number one, because I've done this with probably over 100 schools at this point that have come and asked me for help. And they're almost never number one because their reviews are almost never number one, right? And it puts you in a situation where you go, if I was a parent right now and I had to decide where to look first, would I pick my own business? And more often than not, if you don't have a review strategy in place, you wouldn't even pick your own business. Now, some schools will kind of shirk at this and they go, well, but our lesson quality and our studio, it doesn't matter if they never look at you in the first place.
That's that awareness that you're talking about.
That is the biggest blind spot I see with music schools. They're like, we have all these great things. And I'm like, I know you do, but no one else does because they're not getting that far in their customer journey. They haven't made it past the awareness stage. All the good stuff you have is amazing. And it's really the heartbeat of a great music school. But that's like 3 steps down the road. They haven't even gotten that far yet. So this illuminates kind of another point that I like to bring up is different prospects of yours that are potential students are at different points in that cycle, right? And you may look at what you have now and go, well, no, I'm just going to keep doing more of the same thing I've always done. And that's how I got to 150 or 200 students. And I would argue those are your low hanging fruit as far as marketing and sales goes. Those were the people that found you because they were highly motivated to find you because they're across the street from you or because Susie takes lessons there and told her girlfriend about it and now she brings their kids there. Those were highly motivated buyers. That's not the whole market. There are markets that need to become aware of you in the first place, right? So that's the main thing I would point out about this awareness stage and why I don't think it gets enough attention.
Yeah, that's fascinating. To put that much emphasis on reviews. I think you're right though. It's kind of like in the olden days, before reviews were such a strong lever. You heard, I just remember having so many conversations with music school owners about like just marketing doesn't work. Marketing costs too much money. So I grow by word of mouth. And it was
Yeah.
almost like this pride thing. Like I don't need marketing because I grow by referral only
Yeah.
or by word of mouth. But what I think is so interesting about this is, like you say, this is sort of the modern day word of mouth
Yes.
is reviews.
People are, I mean, we all lived through COVID, right? People are more siloed and separated than ever. This isn't to say that the moms and dads aren't talking. They're not talking like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
People are becoming increasingly insular. People are not even, a lot of people don't even go to the grocery store anymore. They just get it delivered to their house or they're using Amazon. Like we are becoming, for better or worse, more isolated from one another. And as a natural consequence of that, the word of mouth as we know it is naturally taking a major hit. So like you kind of have to meet the market where it is rather than trying to fight it is how I would say, think of it.
And what's interesting about that too, I guess a follow-up to that would be we didn't even talk about platforms. We're just assuming Google is the king of reviews. And I
Yeah.
think that would probably be a fairly accurate statement.
Yeah.
But there are other places where, people can get reviews and to look at
Absolutely.
reviews. Are there, when you look around the marketplace, I suppose part of this would be region specific. Like, for example, we're here in LA. I know Yelp is a much bigger presence on the West Coast than it is, for example, in other areas of the country. And so Yelp reviews actually have a higher value point than here than maybe they would in, Minnesota, for example. Has that been your experience as well?
We might have to run this part by legal. We'll see.
Okay.
I am not a fan of Yelp.
Okay. I'm not either.
Yeah.
So I don't think our opinion about the company really matters though, because as long as that review converts, a student or 2 or 5 or 10, then there's value to it, right?
I agree. And here's where I get concerned with even recommending Yelp in any way. And I've heard this from multiple business owners across multiple industries. They know that. So Yelp is hyper aware that they hold the keys to your business's success or lack thereof. And they have a whole cold calling team that will call businesses.
Oh, they're so merciless.
They are relentless, my friend. And you just got to be careful if you want to become reliant on that as a channel for you. I don't want to discourage anyone from trying it. I personally believe that Google is king. I believe that once you master Google and you feel that you have a really good amount of reviews in business coming from a result of that, then start to think about these secondary and tertiary channels. But Yelp in particular is I'm not a big fan. Let's put it that
Sure.
way. So I think you can do it. There's apps like Nextdoor. There's like your Facebook page, which I think has questionable efficacy in terms of, I don't think people search a lot of businesses on Facebook. But you also have to think about the demographic shift that's going on. Like we're going from Gen X being the parents to millennials and now soon Gen Z. So it is a bit also of a moving target of like where people are, right? So we're moving from Facebook into Instagram age now into the TikTok age as well. So what's true today for like the hot platform may be very different in 5, 10 years. The one through line I've seen for at least the last decade is Google, 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 Google. That's just my 2 cents on it. We might disagree on it.
Well, no, I think it's very interesting. I like that you just mentioned that the platform could be very different, soon. Because the other thing that we're seeing is emerging is AI, and
Yeah.
AI is becoming much more of a threat to Google. Even
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if you heard
Oh, they
Atlas.
just dropped their
Atlas
browser.
new browser, yeah, and so they're I don't know what I heard that the Google stock Alphabet just tanked after that, and of course these things take time before anything's really going to change. But I mean that could be a potential for anybody looking at the horizon about what the next big thing is that could contend for Google's market share. I think that would be a worthy potential.
Yeah, and the world, and there might be some marketers out there that spear me for this. I think it's called GEO. It's generative engine optimization is what they're starting to coin this as, which is in the same way that you fed Google's algorithm with content and
Right.
reviews. How do you feed the engines of these AIs? And I would say even more so than Google, it's like a black box. Like only the people at OpenAI fully understand
Yeah.
exactly how it's. And I doubt there's probably a point where they don't even
They don't,
understand
yeah.
it. Um, the most common thing I've heard from marketers that I trust quite a bit is right now, at least at our current stage, the things that feed SEO are the things that are feeding GEO as we understand it. And again, maybe it's not GEO, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Sure.
So as I understand it from the marketers that I know and love, right now we're still safe. The things that are working for this are working for this. And how do you test that? Well, I mean, are there just massive deltas in what you see when you search on Google versus when you search on OpenAI or Perplexity or whatever else you're using? So right now we're safe, but it's always it's almost like a cat and mouse game where these large tech giants, the Google, OpenAI, et cetera, they figure out how to get their system to work. A whole generation of marketers and sales folks and business hackers figure out how to pull the levers a little harder for the efficacy of a business. Then everyone else figures out how to do it too. Then the playing field has been leveled again. And now everyone's at the same point. Then Google changes their algorithm. One person figures it out and then it levels again. It's this wave that I see happen over and over and over again.
Mm.
As soon as a crack marketer figures out how to kind of get Google to do exactly what they want, Google changes their thing. And now everyone's right back to the same place. So it's cyclical.
Interesting. Yeah. That's fascinating. Well, I wanted to bring that up because I figured you'd have some thoughts on this new era that we're kind of
Yeah.
entering into, that now the AI has a browser where you can literally interact, chat GPT and ask, having a conversation instead of just entering a search prompt, Um, so you talked about awareness, that's very broad and we could go on and on
Yeah.
about that. But would you say that's the first step for a music school to start to build a strong brand?
100%, right?
Yeah.
So for other types of product marketing or service marketing, there can be what we call like demand gen. And this means manufacturing a need where maybe there wasn't before. That would be the only thing before awareness on the kind of life cycle journey that doesn't really exist for music lessons,
Yeah.
unless you're finding ways to like get kids to decide they like music, which is like maybe if you're a music store, there's an argument for that,
Sure.
right? Like, so if you're doing a retail component and you have kids that are coming in with their dad and dad's a guitarist,
Right.
maybe there's an argument there's something before awareness, but otherwise I'd say awareness
Yeah,
is
I
really
mean, for the most part, mom sees kid, he's banging around on the couch at home, and he's, oh,
bingo.
maybe we should get him into music lessons.
Exactly.
Like that demand is sort of built in.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think most people, as a general rule, most people know that music is a good thing, that it's
Yes.
something that would benefit their kid, and so they want to instill that. So that is sort of that demand gen that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's inherent to it,
Right.
right? Like there's a presumption to this journey, which is there's already a desire to get involved with music, right? So that's the very first one. And then after that is where things get even more interesting, right? So now after what I call like the awareness stage, we go into what's called the consideration stage. So in this, no surprises, also tied to reviews. As you can tell, very bullish on the idea of reviews. And there's more that goes into
Sure.
the consideration stage. But this idea is this. Okay, I know that I need service X, right? Whatever it may be. And so the first thing I do is I'm just going to search for people that can provide me service X. I have now become aware of some number of businesses that provide this service. And let's say I'm going to pick 3 of them. We have now entered the wild world of the consideration stage.
Mm.
So I'm looking at your school, I'm looking at this school over here, and this school over here. So, what are the things that a consumer is going to do to make a decision about where they're going to drop their child off? Consideration's high here, right? Some industries' consideration's not very, very high at all. So, I'll give you an example. We went and got tacos last night, as I mentioned. I put some effort into consideration here. But if you live here in LA, a taco is a taco is a taco is a taco,
Sure.
and they're all pretty damn good, right?
Yeah.
Music lessons for your child, where you're going to drop your kid off to be alone with a stranger for at least a half hour, consideration is very high. This is not an impulse buy. You are not at the grocery store and see 2 different chocolate brands and go, yeah, I'll try that one.
Sure.
It's not like that. Consideration can go pretty deep here. So the very first thing, because remember, they're in the search bar right now, you're going to look at your reviews. Again, what are they saying about school A versus school B?
Mm.
And volume is good because they see that you're popular, which implies that you're reputable, right? It's kind of like your social capital. They can see that you're reputable and popular, but then they can also read the specific reviews, right? So let's say you have a kid that is really into Taylor Swift or really wants to do country music or rock music. If you have enough reviews, there's a really good chance that something that's going to resonate with them is in one of those reviews, right? You're going to see, oh, it looks like they have a guitar teacher that's really popular here. And I know my son really wants to learn guitar. Or another one I talked to a client about the reviews that helped them a lot. They had a teacher who specialized with children who are on the spectrum. That was in their reviews. And that got them even more people who have children that are on the spectrum, right? So the content of the reviews, the quantity of the reviews, and again, the recency of the reviews is really, really important here. And now that I'm done belaboring the point of how important reviews are, your website also now starts to matter.
I was going to ask, yeah, because I think there's a lot of debate over a good website versus a website that is good enough versus a website that might be a little, quote, salesy, you know. In the way I always approached my website was always more focused on converting. And so, because my thing is always, I don't really care how pretty the website is, as long as the only job of the website is to take the prospect who is, like you said, they're aware of you now. Now they're considering you versus the other 2 or 3 competitors and deciding this, I want to go with this. And so coupons, having some type of offer that's compelling enough to get them to give it a shot, to walk in your doors, because you and I both know as soon as they walk through the doors and try the product, they're a lot more likely.
That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really curious to hear what your thoughts are as it relates to consideration with a website. Where do you fall on that?
So I think I categorize websites in 2 ways for a business. And I think a lot of businesses go with the second way, and we'll talk about what that is. There is a marketing website and there's an informational website.
Mm.
And a lot of business owners end up inadvertently or otherwise making informational websites. They're
Interesting.
really, really focused on inundating people with all of the information. They have their policies on there, all of their pricing, uh, all of this stuff that's great, but it just makes it a repository of information that's probably more valuable to your existing customers than to a new customer who's just trying to figure out if they should sign up their kid for a trial lesson or not, right? That's an informational website. What you're talking about is exactly what I'm getting at. That's a marketing website. It's a website that's built to inspire and ultimately convert, which is conveniently the next stage I would talk about.
Yeah.
So it's all about delivering a quick, you want to satiate what they're looking for very, very quickly, right? So I would ask you, what do you think a parent wants satisfied quickly when they are little Timmy pulls on dad's leg for the 10th time? Dad, I really want drum lessons. And dad's like, all right, let's get this done. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I've had so many conversations about this, as I know you have too. Just like, what's a good website? I've reviewed a ton of websites from school owners, and I never thought about that before. The way you just articulated it, just in those two categories, you have informational and then you have marketing. But I think you're 100% right. Like, you can tell the schools that are just there to convert students versus the schools that want to show off all their stuff, or maybe they just want to tell the big long story of how they got started on, grandpa's tractor, and then when whatever. But it's one of those. It really is true. It's usually one of those two different categories. Um, I think for me, when I like, because I'm a parent, I've got three kiddos. They're not so much kids anymore. They're getting older, but I think trust plays a huge factor in this. And, I think reviews speaks to that. But I also think demonstrating the result
Yeah.
of what they're going to get right there on the front page of the site. I think the hero section is critical, that there are images of, again, the result. And what is the result that most parents want for their kids? Happy kids.
Yes.
Do they want them to go to Juilliard? Do they want them to be professional musicians? Usually not. That's usually not the result of what they want. They want their kids to be happy and educated, right? Uh, and so show that so photos is a huge part of it. I also found that showing the reviews or the testimonials on right on that hero section with I would overlay it on my images, because again, it's just that social proof. Video testimonials. I think it was Dan Kennedy that said most businesses grossly underuse testimonials. People love reading testimonials, and to your point about reviews, it's
Word of mouth.
it's very powerful. It's amazing how powerful it is. And so, but even on the website, and so I always had a ton of testimonials on the website, throughout the website. And so it's just kind of solidifying to that prospect, that parent, that, yeah, all these other parents, look at all these other parents are saying how much they love it, and this person and that person. I think having a very easy CTA, like an easy way for them to take the next step. And this is a big one for me that I've seen so many people not do, which is making it difficult for somebody to take the next step, whether it's not having a button to click to, take the next step, whether it's, maybe their phone number is not even until the very bottom of the site. You got to scroll all the way down just to
Yep.
find the phone number or the address. They don't even know where the building is located or where. So it's amazing to me how many people get this wrong.
I could not agree more. So I look at music school websites more than I care to admit. And I can't tell you how often I go, I don't even know how to act upon this if I did want to take lessons right now. Like, I don't even know what my next step is as a consumer. what do I do next? And same thing, I'm looking for a phone number. Do I email you? Do I send a carrier pigeon? Like, how am I supposed to move this to the next stage?
Yeah.
And this is, again, you got to meet the customer, make it as easy as possible for them to know what to do next. And this is the power of the CTA, or for those at home that don't know, the call to action.
Right.
And it's often a button, right? This leads us right into the third stage here. And this is the convert stage, right? You now have them. They've defied the odds. They've looked at all of the schools in your area. They became aware of yours, which is big part of the battle.
Right.
They compared you to other schools and you won. And now they're on your website. And you've now made it really difficult for them to execute on all of this excitement that you've built so far.
Or worse, they've made it to your website, they found your phone number and called, and you don't answer.
Yes. And then you're in this phone tag for days trying to get a 30-minute.
You just don't call them back. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's true. Like, it's amazing to me how many people, how many businesses are like, oh yeah, I've got, all these voicemails, I got to get back to them, or I've got these emails, these prospects. It's like, what? How long do you think those people are going to wait?
They're not.
Before they go to the next one in line? Because they've got a list, right? You're just happen to be at the top of the list, but it's not going to take much for you to be moved off of the list completely.
We live in the age of instant gratification. Like, our attention span to get the thing we want is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. I mean, thanks Bezos for that.
Yeah.
Because that's how we're wired now. I just want to get this done, and I want the thing I want, and I want to move on to the next thing. And the phone tag thing drives me crazy. So, like, an exercise that people at home can go through is, I want you to ask yourself a couple basic questions, and they should know the answers for the most part off the top of their head. So the first one is, what do you charge a month for lessons, right? We see on the really low end, like $100-ish, all the way up to $200, $300, $400, depending on the geo. Like, Manhattan can get really crazy, right? I'm going to use big round numbers to just keep this simple. Okay. And how long do you keep your average student?
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the instrument, the locale, the efficacy of your teachers, I mean, it's usually years. We're not talking about months in a lot of cases, especially for things like piano, violin, like highly structured instruments. So let's say you keep a student on average for 3 years. Some schools I've had students for 10 years, and beyond. I've seen kids come in and watch them graduate, So let's say we're going to say 3 years, and let's say they spend $200 a month. Okay, just some quick math here. And I hopefully don't mess this up because we're on camera. So 200 times 12, right? Yeah. In a year, you're getting $2,400 out of that prospect. The second year, you're getting 48.
Yep.
Am I tracking so far?
4,800, yeah.
Okay. This is where it's going to get hard for me. 48, 52, 6.
72?
We'll take it.
7,200, I think. Yeah.
7,200. You'd think I don't work in sales, but I do. I work with numbers all day. So it's $7K. $7K just left you a voicemail. Hello, this is $7K. I would like to give you $7K. That's what I want you to hear when you have a voicemail that you're not answering. And what we call this in sales and marketing mechanics is LTV, or lifetime value. This is how you understand what is the real worth of a prospect to me. And once you can do that math, you can make some really big decisions about, well, what am I willing to spend to get a customer? And then all of a sudden, doing things like ads, which you mentioned earlier, aren't so scary. Because a lot of music school owners, they'll start a Google Ads campaign, they'll watch some YouTube videos, and they'll go, yeah, we tried Google and it didn't work. And I'll go, oh, it didn't work at all? And they'll go, I mean, we got like 2 customers, but it cost us like $1,000. It's very high, by the way. You're still in the positive.
Yeah.
If your LTV is 7K, right? You're still in the positive. And you can work on getting that more efficient so that it's only costing you $100 per lead, right? But people don't think that way. They're not thinking, what is the LTV? What is the lifetime value of this prospect? So for the people at home that have unanswered voicemails, $7,000. Just think about that. Think about what your LTV is.
No, it's such a good point, and it's so true. I think kind of what you're highlighting is we need more urgency when it comes to prospecting or this stage, this conversion stage. There needs to be more of a sense of urgency. I remember talking to my staff about this exact thing, and it was so hard for me to get it through to them that these prospects, this is literally leaving. You say 7K, whether it's 5K, any amount of money, right? 5K, 4K, 7K, 10K.
Sounds like a lot of money
It's
to
all
me.
a lot. Yeah, just imagine that sitting on the table and you're just walking away from it because what? You're too tired?
Yeah, it'll
Or
come back.
Yeah.
That's
Or it'll stay because
Yeah.
it won't. It'll move. It'll leave.
in the sales and marketing world, we call it speed to lead, right? You want to have a really high speed to lead. The quicker you can get to a lead, even better if they can self-serve. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the kind of convert side. The better off you are. Like time kills all deals is another really common
This
phrase.
is this whole urgency thing, though. I feel like companies or music schools that really get this right, the ones that are growing and that always seem to have a lead flow, they understand that there has to be a sense of urgency in this particular stage of the process.
100%. I think the school owners that aren't doing it are just because you're not aware. You don't know that you're missing out on all this money. Like you don't realize how many opportunities you're missing out on because you're not acting upon them quick enough. You just go, oh, they guess they weren't that serious. No, I think they're at school B.
Well, and I also think, I mean, just to be fair to the average music school owner that maybe is watching this thinking, well, that's great for you with all the staff and all the systems, but it's just me, or it's just me and the one staff member. And I'm also juggling, teaching part time and managing teachers and
Yeah.
all of this. And so, but this really comes back to your earlier point about systems. So, yeah, there's no way that you can, as an owner, juggle everything.
Yep.
And the urgency of following up with a prospect now becomes a secondary priority because you already have students literally in front of you
You're a
ready to take
firefighter. You got to
lessons.
serve the thing in front of you.
Yeah. But that you'll hit your head up against a ceiling. You'll never be able to really grow if you don't systematize your conversion process. And this is really what I want to ask you, Rory, is when you think about all the music schools you've talked to and the challenges that you've had, you've talked about the 7K that they're leaving on the table. What is some advice that you would give a music school owner that's in that position, that is like, I'm overwhelmed already? How am I supposed to now create this urgency or whatever to get these prospects converted into students?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to walk through what this harrowing journey that this prospect just had to go on to get to your doorstep. So again, they searched because you have good reviews or word of mouth. They are aware of you. Okay. They then compared you to the guy up the street, your competitor that you're trying to beat, right? And you won. And now they're on your website. And the excitement and momentum is at an all-time high. They don't want to turn around and walk out your door and go into the other guy's website either. And you don't want them to do that. But you can't pick up the phone, or if they do call and leave a voicemail, you got to get, okay, so then let's mitigate all of that. Let them book directly on your website. Just let them book. Let them book. And I've heard this from countless music schools, and I'm going to be opinionated here. Well, we like to provide a really white glove boutique service where, we match them with the right student and so forth. I would argue, one, that is possible nowadays with technology to let the consumer see who your teachers are and make an educated decision about who they'd like to go with. But I always will push back and I say, okay, so let me get this correctly. You have a prospect come in, you're handling it manually, and you want to get them to the absolute best possible teacher, which we all do. That's all what we want, right? And they're like, no, I really want to learn. I'm a guitarist, so I keep thinking guitar. I want to learn chicken picking on guitar. And you have a teacher that's pretty damn good at that. and they're available only on Tuesdays, and the prospect can't do Tuesdays. And there's no rectifying, there's no reconciling those two things. Are you going to turn it away, or are you going to put it with a different teacher on Wednesday? You're going to put it with a different teacher on Wednesday. So I would argue that this whole, like, I don't want to do self-booking thing because we're boutiquey. When I put it to like the logic and reason test, it doesn't always hold for me. But even if that doesn't convince you at home, realize it's a valve. People think it's an either or thing. Like some people are like, I don't want to do self-booking. And I'm like, you don't have to do it all the time. You can turn it on and you can turn it off. You can do the same thing with like free trials. I've talked to a lot of schools. I don't know. Maybe we should do free trials, but I don't want to do them all the time. Well, then don't do it all the time. It's like a feast or famine thing. Like if you feel that your roster is filled up and you're doing really well and you want to increase the barrier of entry and be more selective about your students, then great, go the boutique route, take self-booking off your website for a second. Any school I know that's turned it on has kept it on because they are allowing the iron to be struck while it's hot.
I think that there's also sort of an old school line of coaching that I have also I've heard it from some different opinions in our industry that it's like everything should be over the phone. You need to have paper contracts, that type of a thing. And whereas I can understand the white glove service, the boutique, but I don't really know if the data is there to suggest that more parents are going to sign up with the white glove, more boutique kind of, I'm only going to talk to you on the phone kind of a thing. I don't know if there's data to suggest that that is more in demand than the self-booking. I just want to hit the button. I want to see the teacher. I want to read about them, and then I just want to do it. I'm in my pajamas. It's 10:30 at night. I don't really care to talk to someone. You know what I mean? Like that would be my wife. I'm literally describing my wife right
Yeah.
now. So, but to me, like I don't see maybe 10 years ago, when the tech wasn't quite there. But now I don't really see any compelling argument for somebody to say, I'm not going to do self-booking because it's not a good enough customer experience.
Well, here's the other part of that. They're not mutually exclusive. So if you have self-booking on your website, the people that's conducive to are going to take that channel and you're going to get them right away. And great. For the people that maybe have more questions, your phone number is still on your website. They can still call you. Like, for instance, I'm looking into vocal lessons right now. As a musician, you can imagine I'm super particular about who I want to coach me. So, like, I may not be your self-booking target. I may never self-book. It's not for me. I can still pick up the phone and call you, but it's about all the other people. And this is back to that silver bullet thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is no silver bullet, right? There are always going to be people that are going to call in with more questions for which you can provide them with that more white glove service. But if in the archetype we're talking about, it's the busy school owner who self-admittedly does not have the time to always pick up the phone or always do this or always do that. So that's why it's always about having multiple channels, multiple strategies at once. None of these things are a binary where it's either or, right? You can have self-booking and certainly still take phone calls. It allows you to capture more personas in the market. But people tend to get kind of like mono strategy about this. They're like, no, this is how we do it. And it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's not one kind of customer. So if you have a couple different channels, you'll capture wider swaths of the market, which is exactly how you grow. And that's what we see the best schools doing. They have self-booking. So the people that like it nice and instantaneous, you're going to get those people. They have their phone number really obvious on their website, right near their CTA. And for the people that like to call, you got that piece of the market too, because you were able to take their call and talk to them. There's a technology component to the phone as well, making sure that when someone calls in and gets more information, if they're not ready to decide, how are you keeping track of the fact that this person called you, right? Remember, $7,000 is on the other line. So another thing we hear from schools is people will call in and they'll ask about lessons. They get what they want from you, but you don't get what you want from them. And what do I mean by that? They call you, what do they want? They want information. They want to know your rates. They want to know cancellation policy. If you have a teacher that can do chicken picking or whatever, and they get that from you, and then thank you, bye, click, gone, like a ghost in the night, just completely vanished from you. Not enough schools go, oh my goodness, I have to seize upon this, and maybe I won't close them on this call. Oh, great. Tell me more about why you're taking lessons. What are find their motivations for taking lessons, get them excited, talk to them, ask them questions. Oh, so you're picking up guitar again. Did you used to play? Oh, that's amazing. What kind of guitar did you have? That's really, really good. Well, let me ask you a question. What are you hoping to get out of lessons? What's really important to you? Oh, that's awesome. We have a guy on staff that I think might be perfect for you. I understand that you're about to go make a decision here. Is it something you got to talk to your wife about? Like, you don't have to get super salesy about it. I don't want you to turn into Grant Cardone. But finding that information out and then just asking, hey, if I don't hear from you in a couple days, is it okay to just give you a call back so we stay top of mind for you guys? Great. If I don't hear from you, I'll give you a call on Friday. $7,000 on the other line.
Right.
So there's still great phone strategies, right? So I want to highlight not mutually exclusive.
And what I love about what you just, what you really were just framing was drawing the prospect. They're not a customer yet, right? So they're the prospect, but drawing them into the conversation, not just being well, here's our information, here's what we offer, here's what we are, and then buy, right?
That's the same thing as the marketing website versus the information website, except it's the phone version of it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if you hire a staff person, because I can just, I've been in this exact position, obviously being a school owner and having staff on the phone and hearing them doing it wrong. What you just demonstrated the wrong way. I heard that on a recorded call, and I just remember pulling my hair out because from my perspective, like I got it, that $7,000 sitting on the table. And I was like, oh, I can't believe they just let that prospect go. From their perspective, they did their job. They answered the phone, they gave the information out, and then they moved on. So it was not until we created scripts, we trained them on those scripts, which is very similar to what you just said, mostly just asking questions.
Just be interested, just be curious.
Yeah, it's getting to know the person on the other end of the line instead of just treating them like, here's the information, okay, bye, I did my job. But really trying to convert them through asking questions. And I think that's so important. So one of the ways to do that, one of the critical ways to do that is by creating scripts and then using those to train whoever your staff is. Sometimes it's training yourself, right? Because you get on a call sometimes and you sort of like, your heart starts beating quick and maybe you're not used to sales. And so you don't know what to do. You're not sure what the right thing to do is. So create the script for yourself. Like that actually could be a very helpful thing.
I think 100%. And, and I'm biased here. I am a salesperson by vocation as well as a former music educator. Everyone thinks that sales is being like a silver-tongued devil that can just convince anyone to do anything. No, that's what a used car salesman, like the trope of a used car. And I'm sorry if I'm offending any used car salesman out there, but that's not what it is. It is a framework to make sure that conversations you have move in some direction. Even if it's a no or a yes, those are both fine. We always say those are the two best answers in sales, yes and no. It's the maybes that'll kill you. And it's a framework to make sure that conversations are concise and productive. Because when a person calls you, they don't, it's like dancing. Someone has to lead, right? If two people try to lead a dance, it's a mess. A conversation is the exact same thing. So it's teaching you systematically how to take lead in a conversation so that you can move it to the next stage. That's really all it is. And I think scripts are awesome. I think frameworks are awesome. And I know I helped a school with this, and it's very hard to get your staff to care about this in particular. So I'm going to this is my second or third controversial take. Commission.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be a lot, but it's $7,000. And I build commission plans for a living. So I know the ROI is there on a $7,000 deal. If you can get someone in that you reasonably believe based on your other customers you already have that they're worth about $7,000, you can start to do some math and go, well, if this cost me $200 from a Google ad to get them, can I pay my front desk person $20 for every closed account that they get for us. I don't see why not. Because the average front desk person like doesn't care. I'm just gonna say it. Like they care about your business. They may love you as a boss and they may love music and education, but the whole like growing the business thing might be a little abstract for them. Also, that's your dream as the owner, not necessarily your front desk person's. So I would say find ways to make it matter to them as well. And that's my controversial take is
No,
commission for closing on those.
So yeah, the only twist that I would make on that is because I feel exactly the same way. My challenge was always, how do I get my front desk staff to think like I do, in that prospect, there needs to be a sense of urgency to get them to sign up. And until they sign up, there's something that's not right in the world until that prospect signs up. And so the way I did it was very similar to what you said, but the twist is I couldn't ever figure out a way to give individual commissions because it wasn't exactly trackable, right? So prospect emails or calls in, front desk A answers the phone, has a great conversation, takes down the information, hangs up. Now they go off shift. Front desk B now takes the next phone call. They continue to nurture that prospect. Maybe they call and follow up, whatever. But not until front desk C calls to the prospect, they finally sign up. So who gets the commission? A, B, or C? Well, I gave it to all of them.
Yeah.
And the way I did it was we had a minimum number of enrollments for the month, right? So let's just say I wanted to get a minimum of 20 enrollments for that month. Well, if we meet 20 enrollments for that month, everybody gets $25 bonus. But we had another bonus level. So if, and this was always month dependent and, enrollment dependent, that kind of thing. But the next bonus I had was a second tier. And so if we get to 27 enrollments for the month, everybody gets a bonus of $50. And then I always had a top tier that I would just dangle just in the event we had a banner month or we had somebody that just was super money motivated. I would always do a top tier bonus. And it was, let's just say 35 students or something like that. And I'd pay everybody $150 for the month if we reached that top tier. So I actually broke the commission up. I paid everybody.
Yeah, you pulled it essentially, yeah.
Yep. But I broke it up into 3 different tiers. And I always made the top tier 3 times what the second tier was. And it was amazing how motivating that was. Because every single month, the staff, they weren't thinking about the first tier or the second tier. They were
looking through to the top.
Yes, exactly. And so it motivated them to really push forward. The other thing that I did was, because it doesn't do you any good if you enroll a bunch of kids, but you lose them all, right? Like you just have this hole in your bucket where you're churning through students. Yeah. And so we also had a total enrollment goal, right? So once we reached, and it was usually on the 100, so like get to 700 and everybody gets, $200 bonus. Once we get to 800,
your net retention, is what we want.
Right, and that sort of kept the retention number in check. So similar to what you're saying, but that's how we did it.
Yeah, and I don't think you have to break it out on like a per employee. I mean, you can, right? Like I do have to say in Opus, you can do this. Like you can see, hey, this is Steve's lead. This is Shauna's lead. This is so-and-so's lead. And it does give them a sense of ownership over that, which I think if you want to get, if you could really get into the sales part, you could do some really cool stuff when there's ownership and assignment of lead. But I think what you're doing is just as good. The whole idea is I've seen, and I've been this business owner. I had a front desk person. It was an older woman in our neighbor. I had a music school in South Philly. Older neighborhood woman. She was retired and she was good. She was affordable. But I would just bang my head on the wall over and over and over again because I'm not going to say her name. I would say, blank, I really need you to try this on the phone for me. Like, I really need to. And she wouldn't do it. And silly me, I'm blaming her for this, right? I'm going, this is her fault. This person that I pay X amount of dollars that is retired, that this is not a career job. This is her fault. And then as I got older, I realized how diluted my thinking was to think that that's her fault. That's my fault.
Mm,
To expect her to care about the same things I care about just because I told her to. That's not how incentives work.
right.
You cannot scold or shame or nag or whatever you want to call it people into caring about the same things as you.
It's a great point.
Align your incentives. Make sure that if there are people in your business that you believe that if they cared a fraction as much as you did, that you would get great results, align your incentives. I'm incentivized to get more students. Well, so are you. And maybe it's $25. Maybe it's something else. Maybe they get a free day off, a free PTO day where it's just like, I'm going to just do whatever. Maybe you take them out to dinner. Maybe like it could really be anything.
Right.
It does
Yeah.
not have to necessarily be monetary, though that's nice. It's just something to align incentives. And then you're never going to have to battle it again. If you have employees, if you have one employee that's not doing what you ask them to do, then maybe that's their problem. But if you consistently have an employee or employees that are not behaving in the way that you want, that's not their fault.
Hmm.
It's your fault. The incentives aren't aligned. That's how I think about it.
Yeah. No, that's a really, really good point. Because, I mean, I think what it speaks to is your ability to understand what motivates your employees.
Yeah.
And, so if you're detached, if they can see that you don't care about them personally, because I think a lot of it is very relational. Employees tend to be, especially if, like for us, when we had our school, I just remember we did all kinds of things to like build the team. We had outings. We did a spa day, for the gals, and we had community meetups, where they would all get together. We'd take them out to dinner. We did all those kind of things, and it was amazing to me how it wasn't always just, oh, you get a pay raise, and that's what motivated them. There was a strong sense of the interpersonal
Of course.
relationship that actually I found motivated them more
I
and
would agree.
got them to, like you say, more align with what my objectives were. Because then when I said, hey guys, this is really important to me, well, they were on board because they wanted the business to succeed because they cared. They cared about me. They cared about the company. So there is definitely a strong community element, I think, at play that if you're a business owner, if you're running a school and you've got a team and you don't care about people, then you're going to struggle.
Well, they're taking cues from you. They're not going to care about people either if you don't.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've talked about this conversion, getting the prospect to convert, to, pull out their credit card and say, charge it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. The most concise way I would say it for schools that don't have a strong convert stage, it's like, great, you put the bait out and you don't have a trap, right?
Mhm.
You got the thing to come and eat the bait, and you have no trap. So if you're not investing in any part or any one part of this chain, you're doing a disservice to the other parts that you've invested in. So like I'll give a quick example. You're spending tons of money on ads, and let's say you're spending 2, 3, 4K a month on Google ads, but you don't have a good system to convert. You flushed all that ad money down the toilet. You spend a bunch of money on a $10,000 rebuild of your website, but you have nothing to drive awareness. You flushed all that money down the toilet. It has to be comprehensive. And it doesn't mean you have to spend 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. You can actually get a lot more efficient when they all have the attention they deserve.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. It has to be cohesive. And when you're leading somebody to the site and you're getting them all excited and then they can't find your phone number or they can't, it's amazing how quickly people will just bounce from you to the next person in line. And so this conversion is so important that you have this pre-built in and that you're ready to receive them into the company, into the business, into the family when they're ready to pay you.
Yeah. And if you miss them, it's going to happen, right? If you don't have self booking or they don't want to do self booking, it's going to happen. You need a system to keep track of these leads. They cannot just fill up your voicemail on your cell phone. That is not a system, my friend. You got to have a system through which you can progress them, right? That I know these are all the people that called this week. This is their contact information. This is the instrument they're interested in. Maybe I can't get them to sign up for full time. Can I get them to a trial lesson? Can I get them to sign up all the way? Do I need to call them back in a week? Know your weaknesses. You're not going to be able to keep all that in your head, right? It's the same thing with the review strategy that I mentioned earlier. All these owners that really in their heart of hearts want to be successful at reviews and they swear they're going to work hard on it. And it's a lot for one man or woman to keep up with without a system. The same goes with these leads. You got to have something to keep track of your leads to make sure you're
And I
following
would
up.
argue this is a much harder thing um, to keep up with.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're spending any kind of significant money on marketing, leads are going to come in.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you put the bait out there, it will attract fish. It's just the way it works. And so if you know, if you don't have some type of system to be following up with these leads, these prospects, these people that have at some point been interested, then I feel like that is leaving an enormous amount of money, potential money on the table.
100%. You not only are you letting it kind of die on the vine, so to speak, you're also completely knocked your marketing efficiency out of whack. Because think of it, it's like just like a chain, right? You spend, I'm going to make up a figure here. You spend $1,000 a month on ads. Well, your conversion rate of those into customers, for those that come in from the ads, is going to dictate the efficacy of your marketing dollars.
Right.
So I spend $1,000. I'm making this all up. I get 100 leads. I'm not super on top of it, and I convert 10 of them. Well, your $1,000 got you 10 leads, which means your acquisition cost is on the higher end than if you had gotten 100 leads from that $1,000 and you close half of them.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, your marketing dollar efficiency is skyrocketed.
Right.
So they're all interconnected, right?
Well,
so not only are you leaving money on the table, you're burning money you already spent as well.
exactly. And I think the other key to this whole thing is when you have a follow-up system, a nurture system, a drip system, whatever you want to call it, what that does is it can get a little complicated because, you know, maybe you spent $1,000 and signed up 10 in month one, but by continuing to nurture those leads, you're getting maybe 2 more the next month,
Yes.
and then maybe 1 3 months later. But it all came from that original $1,000. So
yeah.
it does get a little bit complex in order to truly track the efficacy of that original $1,000. But regardless, at the end of the day, you're getting students. And so when you have some type of system, because again, talking to this studio owner that maybe has one admin, they're still teaching, they're doing all, you know, wearing all the hats and juggling everything, to think of, okay, now you need to put in some type of system to follow up with every single prospect that raises their hand and says, I'm interested, every email lead that comes in, every phone call, voicemail. It's like, it's impossible unless you're up 24/7, which
Yeah.
nobody can do that. So what would you say to that person, and how would that person put a system in place to
Yeah.
start following up with those prospects?
So I would say there's two ways to go about it. There is, if you have an admin, you can certainly task them with this. However, that's a whole nother can of worms. You have to transfer your passion for converting these to that person. So then you get into commissions. It's certainly one way to go. I think you start with founder-led sales. It's very much how the tech world works as well, because you have the highest amount of passion. Let's say every week you have 25 leads come in. It's a great problem to have, by the way. Carve out time every day. I don't care if it's 20 minutes or it's an hour. Do it as a daily discipline. Carve out that time where you log into whatever your system is that you're using. Even better if it has a way to handle leads. And you're just going to call them and I know it's hard. I know it's hard. I've owned a school. I know how much you're going to get distracted. I'm going to bring you back to that LTV number again. $7,000. $7,000. Just remember every day, $7,000. This is the thing I want to stress here, because I am a technology guy and people can assume that I over index on the technology part. No, there is a human labor part of this. you have to get disciplined as well. Systems will not solve everything for you. I would love to say that as a person who sells technology.
Yeah.
It's simply not. It takes two to tango. You got to have the tech and you got to have the discipline to use it.
Yeah, I think that's really true. That's a good point because I think that if you are super into the tech and you just want the next shiny object, then it's like, okay, well, tell me what software I need to buy. Tell me what thing I can plug in so I don't have to do the work anymore. So I like that point. That's not what the point that we're making here.
Not even, that's what a used car salesman would say. Just buy the thing, it'll fix everything. That is not true. You're going to get these tools to help you be better at what you're already doing, right? It's going to help you get more efficient at what you do. But until you reach a certain maturity level in the growth arc of a music school, you're still going to be very involved in this stuff. So use the technology to make it less painful. Use the technology to help you systematize it and to do it on a regular cadence. That's kind of the first wave of this. The next wave is you get big enough that you have the money to get some good admins that you can train how to do. I would never lie to someone and tell them that there's any technology that exists where this whole thing is hands off. We're just simply not there yet. Simply not there yet.
Yeah, well, and I think even the nature of music lessons is, a music school survives because of the human element.
Yeah.
If it was all tech, then people would just go to YouTube and just do their lessons there, or they would just buy the online courses, which there are plenty of them out there. And yet music schools continue to thrive in our world, in this industry. And so there has to be a human element that is critically important to keep this thing going.
100%. And I think especially in the age of post-COVID and AI, where we're like inundated with being separated from each other and these artificial things, and music lessons are not going anywhere. The human component is always important. So that's definitely not what I want to get across today. It's like, yeah, just replace everything with systems. Like, no, not quite. Systematize the parts that can be systematized so that you can be better at the human parts. That's really how I would think of it.
Right. Okay. Well, all right. So we've got them in the door now. We've got the student. They've paid us. They're in our school system. Now, there is more to the story. Like, once you've gotten them in your school, I think maybe a lot of people will say, well, great. So my marketing's over. I don't need to really worry about that student anymore or that individual anymore. What would you say to that?
Well, I don't think in any business it's good to rest on your laurels. This is what I call like the administrate stage or the service stage. This is where you're actually giving them the thing that they showed up for. So not only is it like moral to like, you put all this effort into getting them in, it's like the right thing to do to make sure they have a great experience. And it's why we all got into this industry in the first place, is to like teach kids music. It's kind of the coolest thing there is in the world as far as I'm concerned. But this becomes the business of tomorrow because it's where your reviews come from. It's where your word of mouth comes from. It's where your brand awareness comes from. It's where you learn more about the inefficiencies of your business or your teachers, unfortunately, in some cases. Like, I would say I actually do think a lot of schools do this part unbelievably well. Like, I am so proud of most of the schools I talk to.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing this industry has no shortage of, is passion and love for teaching the arts to children. So there's a lot to say on the topic, but I don't think most schools have this problem.
Yeah.
I hear some problems about hiring and getting the right teachers and so forth, but the administrator service stage, I think a lot of schools are knocking it out. I think this is why sometimes they have a blind spot as to why it's not working, because they're so focused on this part. They go, we have great teachers. Why is the phone not ringing off the hook? Because they do this so well. So
when you say deliver, would another word be delivery? I was going to say administrative. You say this is the administrative stage. When you describe it that way, that makes me think of this is the delivery of the product.
Correct.
They've purchased it. Now we're delivering to them what they purchased.
It's a much better way to say it. I think on my end, I call it administrate because I'm looking at the tech side of things.
Sure.
So this is where the technology begins to enable your ability to administrate the service. But this is the delivery stage. It's a way
Okay.
better way of saying it. So yeah, this is when you're delivering the whole reason that they showed up. And if there's a school out there that's not focused on that part, or think that once they get them, they don't have to do anything else, like I would honestly argue you have bigger problems because maybe you're not in the right business.
Right.
Like in my opinion, what I see, most schools do this really well,
Yeah.
and they're really, really proud of what they do
Yeah.
at this stage.
This is usually, I agree with that. This is usually when I talk to school owners where they get the most excited.
Yeah, it's
You know,
exciting.
so, which is evidence of the fact that they're doing it well, right? Because they talk about it, they're excited about it. They talk about the recitals they put on, their shows that they put on for their students, and the amazing rooms they have and the beautiful lobby. Like I totally agree with that. So the delivery is probably the strongest part of this chain if we were to put all these links together.
In our industry, like 100%. Um, you know, I work exclusively with performing arts education businesses. And many of the people that make up this industry, I call them like begrudging entrepreneurs, at least to start with.
Yeah.
We're all people that have a love for the arts, for education, and probably children, right? Like youth. And so that trifecta. And people really deliver here. This is the fun part of running a music school business. And I talk to so many owners that are like, oh, and we're rolling out this new curriculum. And like, I'm using Piano Express and I pair it with Alfred's Premier And like, they love getting into this part. And so I wouldn't even begin to say I'm going to give anybody advice on that because as far as I see it, our industry has got that part covered in spades. Like that's no comments on that, like
Yeah.
from my end.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And yeah, like I said, I would agree with that. So, okay, so then what would the next stage be after this?
This is the final stage. So this is what I call the amplify stage. This is, okay, and I want to go through the whole journey here real quick. I feel like it's like Indiana Jones. Like, okay, so they started all the way over here. They didn't know you existed. They searched and they found out you existed. This is a miraculous moment. It's a beautiful moment. They find out your business exists, right? Okay. Then they compare you to Joe Schmo's School of Music and blah, 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 School of Music. And they go, you know what? No, I like this one. This is the one I want to check out. Let's go further. They go to your website. They love your website. It's not a repository of information. It's a really sexy marketing website that's built to convert. And they go, my God, I do want to bring my kids here, right? And when they say, I want to do it, they know exactly where to click and go to make that happen. Whether it's a phone call or self-booking or a lead capture, it's clear, it's obvious, they do it. Let's say they call in. When they call in, they talk to an awesome front desk person who knows all the right questions to ask and gets this person even more excited about lessons at your amazing music school, and they're booked. Okay, so now we're into the delivery stage and they're taking lessons with one of your best teachers or having a great time. The kid is now moving on from Green Day to now he's ripping through the Crazy Train solo. Everybody's happy. Here's the final stage because it's not over. How do we turn this great experience, this great journey that this student and customer has gone on and turn it into more business? And there's really two ways. We amplify their message, right? By getting them to leave us, you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Leave us a review or testimony or testimonial footage. Or we get them to talk to their friends about it, you name it. Or they're performing at a, you'll see it like flea markets and stuff. The local like music school will have the kids actually play. You're showcasing, excuse me, their talents. If it's cool with their parents, you're getting video of them playing and putting it on your Instagram, Facebook, whatever, TikTok. So that's one way that you amplify a great experience and inspire other great experiences for people to enter your awareness stage,
Mm-hmm.
right? So this person's at the end of the journey. They're amplifying and they're creating the next person's awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feeds right around. Or the other version of amplify is, how do I amplify the value I bring this family? And this is through, in more literal terms like upselling. So that could be a rock band if you're one a more contemporary rock based school. That could be through like an ensemble, a string quartet. It could be even recitals. If that's I've seen some schools monetize it, some schools don't. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other on that. So those are the two ways in which you can amplify: inspiring other people to become aware, or by, in a really simple terms, like getting more money out of a singular customer by giving them more value.
Yeah, and I love the full circle with the reviews. I've always thought that the last stage I've always thought of the last stage as being tied to so maybe this will be an addition to what you were saying, because I agree with both of those. But there's also a piece of reselling the family on continuing, which another word, fancy word for that, is just simply retention,
Yes.
right? I've always viewed retention as actually marketing. We're continuing to market to the student and to the family as a reason to continue to pay, because this is a subscription model. This isn't a
One and done, no.
Yeah, no, it's not a one and done. And so we have to convince them every single month. There's a little reminder on their credit card statement. Yep, we're still here. You're still paying for this. And so and it's not always, mountaintop experiences for students. In fact, we usually see, the first few months, there's a thrill and excitement. It's a newness. And
Yeah.
then there's a lull that comes after that, which is, oh, I got to practice. And oh, this is getting boring. And oh, this is difficult. Or maybe my teacher isn't as fun or exciting. Or maybe my
Yep.
teacher got on my case because I didn't practice. And now there's like friction there, but it's good, even though I don't like it, so we have to make the experience worthy of them continuing for the 3 years or the 5
Yeah.
years or however long. And so I think there's a component to this, that an additional component to this, that we want to stretch as many months as we can from those families. And one way to do it is what you just said with upselling. I think that when you get people to spend more money with
They're
you,
more engaged, more invested.
they're more invested and they're less likely to leave.
Well, here if we can talk about the rock band, and please feel free to sub that out with string quartet, or
Sure.
if you're a jazz school, or if you're a more classically oriented school, whatever your iteration or version of that is, rather. Anyone who works in music education knows that sports kick our ass seasonally. I can't tell you
It's
how
the
many.
biggest competitor.
Oh my God. Like where I grew up, it was basketball and hockey. And every single year, right when those seasons started, oh yeah, we're gonna have to pause.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the hell? What do you mean? He's crushing it right now. And they go, yeah, but he has hockey. Does the kid actually like hockey more than guitar or piano? I would argue not necessarily. It's the fraternal or the social element that the kid is getting, right? So my company just did a ton of research on the dance market, and we realized retention is even higher in dance, and the margins are higher too.
Mm.
And it's because it's almost like a sport. It is in this really interesting nexus of art and sport, because there's a team component, there's a discipline component, and there's a socializing component. Like, how do you think we get kids to go to school every day? You have kids. It's not always easy, but their friends are there.
Right.
It certainly helps.
Yeah.
And this is why having some supplemental program that has a social component to it, rock band, string quartet, ensemble, whatever you want to call it, is so crucial, because now you're a little bit of a sport. Think of it that way.
That's fascinating. I've never thought of it that way before. You brought up the dance. I've never thought of dance kind of being that perfect in between of sports, because you're right. Sports is like nothing will ever trump sports, at least in our society, at least for now. It seems to be the case. Springtime comes, and no matter what it is, it always, with its music, swimming, like whatever it is, it's always sports comes first. So dance is an interesting balance. And you're saying the research is showing that the retention rate is better.
We did tons of interviews as well, so we could validate the kind of what the data was suggesting, and it's because there is a social element to it.
Huh.
It's such a huge part of it, and I've watched music schools do this and fail, and it's back to this idea. Like, think about the thing I said about the front desk person, where you're like trying to convince them why they should care about
Right.
converting people. We do the same thing with music school students, and I used to do it too. So I can talk smack on it because I used to do it. We do this whole spiel, and I think a lot of people at home are going to recognize this. Well, you can only do sports until you're 18, but music you can do forever. Or we'd like to go, well, music makes you smarter. All those tropes, those little pitches that we throw out that we think are going to change hearts and minds, does it work? No. Meet the consumer where they are. You're not going to change their mind with the spiel about, well, sports only lasts till you're 18, but you could play piano till you're 90. They don't care. They don't want to hear that. Have you had that speech? Because I've had it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Does it work?
No.
No. Meet them where they are. They're obviously seeking something in sports.
Yeah.
Right? So analyze it and go, well, I can't give them the fully physical element of what sports provide. What else does sports do? Oh, it's like camaraderie and teamwork and an application of something that they've already been practicing, which is their motor skills essentially for children, right?
Yeah.
Think about that for music. Get on stage, rock out, move around, coordinate your music with one another, team building. I've looked at the ROI on a lot of rock band programs, and it's frankly not always great. Like I've run them and been like, oh, I feel like I'm almost breaking even here for how much I have to pay the teachers and da da da. There's a hidden value in it, which is the part that you got at, which is the retention.
Interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. So, yeah. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up because I think that is a huge component to this whole customer journey. Is it's learning our customers well enough to be able to give them what they need to stay for as long as possible.
Yes.
And the social component, I think, is huge. And we see a lot of schools doing group classes, and obviously the recitals or the concerts or whatever you want to call them. There's that component as well. But I've just never heard it articulated that way with dance. So I think that's very interesting as it relates to that. So this last stage is so important because I love how you tied it back together with the first stage where, you want to amplify the customer experience because they've just been through the whole experience.
Yeah.
They've been through all the whole journey. And so now those people at the end can circle back and tell the people at the beginning,
There you
hey,
go.
you should check these guys out. I just went through this whole journey. It's like when you go on a ride, at a park or something. It's like, I've been through the ride.
And you're all happy at the end. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. We call it in sales and marketing, we call it evangelizing. You're evangelizing someone. They have had such an awesome experience with you. They're happy to tell other people. That's really all it is. And that's why that service stage or delivery stage is truly important. And this is the part, again, that most schools are great at. And so, yeah, the amplify stage is where you can see how that becomes almost like perpetual motion. Your school gets bigger and you're casting off more good reviews and you're casting off more testimonial videos and you're casting off more people into rock band and more people see rock band. And this is how you see schools break the glass ceiling of what I would call 200 students. I say 200 to 300 is the glass ceiling. Once you break that, you start to get this snowball going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you end up with like some of our larger clients or 2,000 students at a single location. How do you do that? Break that 200 and you'll see it happen.
That's fascinating. So this whole customer journey is something that I think people really need to understand. And I think this conversation has been amazing because what we've really done here is we've really broken each stage down. And so I think that for anybody listening, we can go deeper in each one of these topics, but I think just going through and listening to this conversation will definitely get you on the right foot moving forward in your school. And pretty sure, we can all improve in our different areas. And like I said, going through all these different stages, find out, as a music school owner, what is your stage, right? Like what's the weak point? Maybe for somebody it might be the discovery or the awareness,
Yeah.
right? Maybe for somebody it could be kind of that conversion. I know that's a very difficult thing to get right,
Yeah.
getting the right staffing. And so it's a very profitable thing for anyone to do, to think about what would be the stage that they could better tighten or improve.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that when I started learning this stuff, it was long before like my tech career that I first kind of became aware of this stuff. I actually felt such a sense of relief too, because I felt like I was lost at sea with my business. Like I like kind of knew what to do, but I didn't go get an MBA. Like I don't know. I was a rock and roll musician, Um, once I kind of learned this framework and started to apply it to my business, the peace that came over me because I realized these are all the things I can't control and these are the things I can. And the peace that washed over me once I realized about the things I can focus on and control, I felt like I was back in the driver's seat of my business. And it was a real game changer for me.
Well, Rory, I appreciate all your insight and your wisdom in this area. And this has been a fascinating conversation.
Yeah, I had a blast and hopefully we'll have you in LA again soon.
All right. Thanks.